2 days ago, Sayadaw started to explain about Satipatthana. That the person who practices Satipatthana meditation should have strong, firm, good quality sati. And on the first day, Sayadaw explained briefly on Satipatthana. And yesterday, Sayadaw explained how the sati should be strong, firm, and good quality. So yogis would understand from the explanation as well as from their practice. By developing the mental factors, the sati, mindfulness, will automatically arise, and such kind of sati will not be ordinary form of sati, but it will be patthana. Sati yeva patthananti vocati, meaning mindfulness is firmly, steadfastly established on the object. Sati itself is called patthana, as the mindfulness is firmly, steadfastly established on the object. Patthati is defined as upathati, meaning closely established mindfulness. In the body, there are fields of objects to be noted. Within the fields of objects to be noted, there is the presently arising object, and one should be noting the presently arising object as soon as the object arises, and yogi will gain the benefits of Satipatthana practice. Getting the benefits of Satipatthana practice, one will have faith and confidence in the practice, and one will build up more wish to carry on Satipatthana practice, and one will be able to exert 3 stages of viriya, effort. One has to give up the human happiness, worldly happiness, in order to practice. There should be prityaga. One should give up one's family, friends, job, in order to join the retreat. One has to initiate the effort in the practice, and one should step up, boost up the effort in order to overcome laziness and difficulties. One should exert atapa viriya, ardent effort in the practice. If one does not exert effort in the practice, not noting the object, then the defilement moisture can enter based on the object that the person comes across. If something is moist, it will be heavy. The object will become heavy with moisture. And if something is always moist and wet, later on it will become moldy, and eventually it will decay and cannot be used anymore. So, just as the person has to take care not to keep one's belongings moist and moldy, and if the belongings become moist and moldy, one should make it dry. In the same way, not to let the defilements arise in the mind, one should note the presently arising object with aim and effort, and one should understand the benefits of viriya, effort. Understanding the benefits of effort, one will cherish and value the practice, and one will be eager to practice. And especially, one will note diligently when there are unpleasant sensations. In the beginning of the practice, one will see as the body parts, such as the knee is aching, or there is pain in the thighs, or there is aching in the waist. So in this way, yogi will see the sensations together with the body parts. So as the yogi keeps on noting repeatedly on the pain, and as viriya and sati, effort and mindfulness become strong, the noting mind will fall on the unpleasant sensation itself. So when the noting mind falls on the unpleasant sensation itself, yogi will come to know that it is the unpleasant sensation, and the unpleasant sensation is making the mind weak and withered and discouraged. So the unpleasant sensation can make the mind withered and weak, and it manifests as something that is tormenting. So in this way, yogi discerns the characteristics, function, and manifestation of the unpleasant sensations. And at times, the person becomes discouraged, depressed in noting the unpleasant sensation. Just as when a thorn is pricking the skin, as long as the thorn is piercing, there will be discomfort. And when the thorn is taken out, one will feel relief. When noting the dukkha vedana, unpleasant sensation, one has to note it with diligent effort. When the noting mind falls on the unpleasant sensation itself, yogi will see the unpleasant sensation itself without the location of the body parts. Only if the body parts still manifest, the body parts make up the concept of person, being, man, woman. But at the stage when the yogi sees the unpleasant sensation itself, yogi will distinctly know that the pain and the noting mind apart from each other. What really exists is the pain and the noting mind. And later on, yogi comes to discern that the pain arises and passes away. At the stage where the yogi discerns distinctly between the noting mind and the pain itself, without the location, seeing the pain arise and passes away, then at that stage, the pain is painful, but yogi comes to see the pain as pleasant. And some of the yogis even put it that it is the pleasant pain. So at this stage, yogi can even challenge the pain. And the practice gains momentum. Sati, mindfulness, becomes strong, that it will become Paṇḍitā Paṭṭati upatati, firmly established mindfulness. Paṭṭati means closely established mindfulness. So when the object arises, new and new, when there are body, activities, feelings and sensations, states of the mind, thoughts, imagination, other mental objects such as seeing, hearing, whatever the object arises, the mindfulness will stick closely on the object. When the mindfulness is closely established on the object, there will be sustained mindfulness. When the mindfulness is sustained on the object, in the word patthana, the meaning of pa and the meaning of thana will become very clear and obvious to the yogi. And today Sayadaw will explain from both theoretical and practical aspects on the meaning of Satipatthana. So at that stage, yogi understands the benefits of Satipatthana practice through his or her experience of practice, and his or her practice will gain momentum and it will become more and more mature and firm. In the beginning of the practice, yogi cannot be mindful of the rising and falling yet. So one has to initiate the viriya effort. And at first, the viriya effort will not be firm or steady yet. If the yogi is practicing in an easygoing way, if the yogi is sloppy in the practice, practicing in an easygoing manner, not respecting the practice, stopping in between, stopping, gazing, resting, then the sati, mindfulness, will not be strong for quite long. But such kind of yogi may think highly of himself, herself, that his or her practice is good. But his or her sati, mindfulness, will not even be ordinary sati. And if the yogi is asked, what did he or she come to know by noting the rising of the abdomen? When noting rising of the abdomen, did he, she come to know the form or shape of the abdomen? Is it the manner of rising, or is it heat or cold or stiffness or tension? So if the yogi is asked, yogi should be able to report precisely what he, she come to know. Rather than noting the rising and falling of the abdomen properly, if the yogi is not practicing, not noting the rising falling well, then he, she may be reporting this and that from what he, she thinks or imagines. And some of the yogis, they are reporting as if their practice is good. So the meditation teacher asks the yogi how long the yogi can keep the mind on the rising falling continuously without any gaps in between. And some of the yogis reply, I can keep the mind on the rising falling continuously for 5 minutes. And some of them reply 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So the meditation teacher says, if you can keep the mind on the rising falling continuously without any gap for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes, it is good, but it is not easy to control the mind. So if the meditation teacher replied that way, the yogi will probably say that he or she cannot keep it that long. There might be thoughts in between and so on. So if the yogi can note the rising and falling of the abdomen without missing, without failing, then the yogi will know whether he can really keep the mind on the rising and falling continuously for that long. For yogi to note the rising and falling of the abdomen with effort, noting respectfully, meticulously, yogi will notice whether his or her mind really reached the object rising and falling, or whether the noting mind does not reach rising, falling. So there are times when sati, mindfulness, develops, and there are times when the mindfulness does not arise. But for the yogi who practices respectfully, meticulously, will be able to report, I am asked to note the rising and falling of the abdomen, but I cannot keep the mind on the rising and falling for so long. There is thinking, wandering. So I note rising, falling for a few times. When the mind wanders off, I note wandering. And after the wandering stops, I come back to rising, falling. After I come back to rising, falling, I was noting rising, falling for a few times. And then again, the thoughts arose. So I had to note as thinking. So in this way, for the yogi who practices respectfully, who is honest, will be reporting like that. So such kind of honest yogi, if she continues the practice according to the guidance of the meditation teacher, according to the teachings of the Buddha, that kind of yogi will progress within a short time. Otherwise, yogi may be spending 1 week, 2 weeks without any progress. And one day she will be reporting, and the next day she will be reporting the same thing again and again. So it is very important to assert all 3 stages of effort. But if the yogi is practicing haphazardly, in an easygoing manner, being sloppy in the practice, then the yogi will only be reporting what she thinks, rather than what she comes to know by being mindful of the object. Such kind of yogi who does not practice well, they will not get the benefit of Satipatthana practice from their experience. So, such kind of yogi sati will not be Satipatthana. Their mind will not be closely established on the presently arising object, so they will not be able to report the object that they have been noting, and they will not be able to report how they come to discern the rising falling accurately, and they will not be able to report their mental state. So it is very important to note the primary object, rising and falling of the abdomen, properly. In order to note the rising and falling of the abdomen, yogi has to aim the noting mind onto the object. Yogi has to exert effort in noting the object continuously, and the quality, the benefits of Satipatthana will be clear to such kind of yogi who practices properly. Patthati is defined as upathati, closely established mindfulness, and the mindfulness arises continuously like a stream of current. So in a stream of current, the water will be continuous flowing. Pavatati here means continuous arising. So the object arises, the noting mind follows it, the mindfulness will be continuously arising, noting the presently arising object. When the presently arising object is noted with aim and effort, the noting mind will closely fall on the object. The mindfulness will be closely, firmly established on the object, and the mindfulness will arise repeatedly, continuously, one after another, and sati mindfulness will arise continuously in a flow, in like a stream of current. Pa means, in the word patthana, pa means closely on the presently arising object, and thana means being established. So as the object arises continuously, the mindfulness should be closely established on the object. It should not be floating, or it should not be superficial, but it should be sustained, firm on the object. In order that the noting mind should be sustained and firmly established on the object, the speed of mindfulness should also be fast. Paṇḍitā Sayadaw, meaning the noting mind should sink into the object, plunging into the object. So when noting the rising and falling of the abdomen, yogi should not be noting it in a superficial way, but the mindfulness should be closely entering the object. So the noting mind should be closely established on the object, sinking into the object. When a piece of cork is thrown into the water, it will be floating on the surface. The mindfulness should not be like a cork thrown into the water. When the object arises, the noting mind should sink into the object as if entering into it. Only then the deep mindfulness will be of good quality. So in the text, there mentions the nature, the characteristic of sati. Apilatana lekhana. Sati has the characteristic of not wobbling, not floating on the surface, meaning that the mindfulness should sink into the object. Just as when a stone is thrown into the water, the stone sinks into the water. In the same way, when the object arises, the noting mind should sink into the object. It should not float on the surface. So when the noting mind sinks into the object, not floating on the surface, then the sati, mindfulness, will be of good quality. In order to be mindful of the object that arises, the person should not be easygoing manner. The person should not be sloppy in the practice. If a person is studying some kind of subject, the person should study it continuously, not to lose sight of it. The sati, mindfulness, has the function asamosa rasa, meaning the mindfulness has the function of not losing sight of the object. Samosa means losing sight of the object. So if a person is investigating about a criminal, the person has to follow the criminal, not to lose sight of him, always to keep in view, so that the investigator will learn what the criminal is doing. If the investigator, if the detective lose sight of the criminal, then his or her investigation will not be thorough. In the same way, when noting the object, yogi should not lose sight of the object. Yogi should always keep the object in view. As soon as the object arises, the noting mind should not lose sight of it. There should not be forgetting. There shouldn't be any failure. There should not be any absent-mindedness. So the yogi should not be practicing in an easygoing manner. If the yogi is sloppy, missing, failing, forgetting, being absent-minded, then yogi will lose sight of the object. So there should be asamosa rasa. Sati has the function of not losing sight of the object, and yogis are asked to note the object, not to lose sight of the object, always to keep the object in view in noting the object. Not losing sight of the object, keeping the object in view, there will be sustained mindfulness. When the object is always kept in view, not losing sight of it, then the manifestation of sati will be obvious. The noting mind will be face to face with the object, just as when two persons are walking towards each other, they will become face to face. In the same way, the noting mind and the object should be face to face, direct with the object. When the rising of the abdomen arises, the noting mind should be face to face or direct with rising. And when falling takes place, the noting mind should be face to face or direct with falling. The same goes with all the other subjects, all the other objects such as opening and closing of the eyes, blinking, and so on. So yogis should note in such a way so that the noting mind should be concurrent with the object. The noting mind should be face to face or direct with the object. Vicaya vimukha bhava pachupathana. The mindfulness has the manifestation of becoming face to face with the object. So when the noting mind is face to face or direct with the object, Satipatthana, it will manifest as the protection. The mind will be protected with the protection of mindfulness. If there is lack of protection with mindfulness, when the person comes across desirable objects, there will be greed. Coming across undesirable objects, there can be anger, hatred, and there can be delusion, not knowing. There can be aññānupekkha, delusion, not knowing the nature of the object. So in this way, if there is lack of mindfulness, unwholesome roots, any one of the unwholesome roots can arise. So the defilements that can arise by lack of mindfulness will have no chance to arise if there is mindfulness. So the defilements that can arise by lack of mindfulness will automatically be prevented by being mindful. In this way, mindfulness protects the mind away from defilement. Satipatthana, sati has the manifestation of protection, protecting the mind. As the mindfulness follows the object, sati mindfulness will arise continuously. Theravada.vn, the mindfulness has the proximate cause of perception. There should be firm perception as the proximate cause for mindfulness to arise. There should be firm perception, taking records. So whatever the object is, whether good or bad, yogi should not be regarding it as good or bad, but just keep on recording. Just as the voice or the Dhamma talk has to be recorded regardless of whether the voice is good or bad, in the same way, yogi has to keep on noting the object regardless of whether the object is good or bad. In this way, yogi should be recording, noting whatever the object arises, regardless of whether they are good or bad, so that sati mindfulness will be of outstandingly good quality, and the meaning of patthana will become obvious to the yogi. His or her sati mindfulness will become outstandingly good quality. And tomorrow, Sayadaw will explain how the mindfulness should be. There are 3 speeds: ordinary speed, normal speed, and the fast speed. And Sayadaw will explain tomorrow how the mindfulness should be of fast speed. And this will be all for today. Sadhu, sadhu.